There's nothing magical about baptism, but it really is a symbol. It's a sign of a decision that we've made to trust our life to Jesus and to receive his forgiveness. So Nick, that's something your dad and I've been talking about. Said you've prayed, you've asked God. You said, God, I want to have you live in my heart. I want to receive your forgiveness, right? So one of the things we talk about in Kitropolis and even with the adults is the ABCs of becoming a Christian. That to become a Christian, it's really fairly simple. That we admit, we acknowledge that we sometimes do things we know we're not supposed to do, right? We sometimes make bad choices, bad decisions. So we admit, we tell God the truth. God, I know that sometimes I make bad choices. The B is we believe that because Jesus died on the cross and was raised from the grave, that he paid the price. He got the punishment that we deserved. And because of that, we can receive his forgiveness. So that's, we believe that because of what Jesus did, we can be forgiven. And the C is that we choose to follow Jesus to the best of our ability, which means that from this point on, we try to do the right thing, not because we're afraid God's mad at us. We know we're forgiven, but we choose to follow Jesus to the best of our ability because he's forgiven us and out of his love. So that's the ABCs of becoming a Christian. Mm-hmm. And after talking with your dad, he got to pray with you, and you told God, I know that I make bad choices sometimes. I do things I know I'm not supposed to. Would you forgive me? And I want to receive that forgiveness, and I want to follow you to the best of my ability. So, having made that decision, baptism is something that the Bible tells us we get to do as a way of celebrating the new life that we have in Jesus. So, here's what I want you to think about baptism. What's really interesting is in Romans, you know the book of Romans? It's in the New Testament, in chapter 5. You can read this for yourself if you like. I didn't bring my Bible down, but I'm going to summarize it for you. Paul says that we are baptized, and when we go underwater, it's kind of like being buried in the ground. It's kind of like a grave. And so in a minute, your dad and I are going to walk out there, and we're going to dunk you under. And that's like a symbol of you being buried in the grave with Jesus. And then, we're not going to keep you under for too long. You can hold your breath for about 2 seconds, right? Okay. Then we're going to bring you back up out of that water. And that's like being raised from the grave. And what that symbolizes is that one day, hopefully many, 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 many years from now, you will die. But that won't be the end of your life, because you will live with God and with others in eternity. And that's what coming up out of the water symbolizes. Does that symbol kind of make sense? Isn't that interesting? So that's why I really love doing lake baptism. We can sprinkle, because that's the other sign of the other symbol of baptism. The other symbol of baptism is that we're washed of our sins, kind of like a bath. Those are the two symbols of baptism in the Bible. But I really love doing the lake ones because it's so dramatic. It helps me remember. And I remember my baptism when I was 12 years old. How old are you now? 8. So I made that decision to become a Christian when I was 12, and I still remember my baptism to this day. And I look back on it, and I remember that was the moment that I decided, God, I'm committing to follow you to the best of my ability the rest of my life. And so I hope you'll be able to look back on this moment, and you'll forever remember that it was at your grandparents' house, right here, on this beach, that we got to do it. So that's really cool, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's really cool. So do you have any questions about this before we do it?
No.
All right, so what I'm going to do is your dad and I are going to walk out, and then I'll have you cross your arms.